Can you believe it? Yes, me, the big house, worked as a stalker at Costco. That's right, you heard it correctly. While I was a Division One strength and conditioning coach, I had to take a second job as a stalker at Costco. Hey, this is Joe Big House Ken, and you are back with another episode of Words Win Wednesday, hosted by yours truly, the Big House. And we're going to talk about success, what it looks like, and guess what? If you want to be in the big time, it's a multiple climb up the ladder. You cannot take the elevator to success, and there's sacrifices. And like the great Rocky Balboa said, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Early in the 90s, you heard it all the time. The money wasn't great, and coaches would always say, I love it. I love it. I'd coach for free. But you know what you find out with how much you love and how much you'd coach for free is? It doesn't pay the bills. At this point in time, the salaries were nowhere near what they are now. And kudos to everybody making millions of dollars or $500,000 or $750,000, because when I started, those numbers were unfathomable. You dreamed about it, and I'm so happy that the money is there now for the amount of work and time that no one sees a strength and conditioning put in behind the scenes, trying to chase that glory of now getting to the college football playoff or getting to a bowl game. When I started out, the money wasn't there. You still worked with multiple sports. It wasn't this sport specific world we live in today. So you were generally the head strength coach, may have had one GA, two GAs. If you had a full-time assistant in the 90s, that was like the holy grail. But that's right. I worked at Costco. Here is my stalker card. Keep it on my desk to remember where it started and where I continue to go. Biggest reason why I had to go and take this job with Costco was financially, we were doing okay, but we needed to be able to support the birth of our second son. And that led me to work the weekends as Costco as a stalker. And guess what I stocked? The candy aisles. That's right. Your boy had those candy aisles looking mint. I worked there for probably a little bit over a year. We had a coaching change. The coach wanted me to travel. I explained my situation. Things worked out from a financial standpoint where I was able to leave that job thanks to Coach Dirk Cutter helping me out there and getting to travel with the football team once again while I was finishing up my tenure at Boise State. Why do I tell you this story is? Because if you want to get somewhere, you've got to be able to sacrifice and do everything you need to do to get to where you want to go. And for me, that was putting, let's say, your ego aside. As I was a Division One strength coach, I was just named the Big West Strength Coach of the Year. And here I am knowing that I've got to help my family out, and the financial means that I was afforded from my salary at Boise State just wasn't good enough. So a good friend of mine helped me out. He was already working there, and I worked the weekend shift. 3 o'clock wake up, you worked 4 to 10. They wanted everything done before Costco opened. And guess what? If you did a good job, they gave you a free coupon for a drink and a hot dog. And if you're doing a really good job and they needed extra help, you may get overtime by stocking cigarettes. That's right. I got overtime for stocking cigarettes. I say this because now everybody's chasing this dream of financial rewards. But look at this book here too. Here's another book, another reference point. The Golden Age of Strength and Conditioning. Many people in this book, they laid the path for all of us. And several of them will tell you they started their first jobs as a head strength coach pretty much for free. So the climb is about the history and knowing where the forefathers and the efforts they put in to make this a legitimate career for all of us to see the financial windfalls that we're seeing now at the Power Four. Now, it's not like that at every level, but the Power Four strength coaches are very much compensated at a high level. And I still think they're not compensated enough based on what some of these coordinators get paid. But that's a story for a different day. I'm here to tell you that do not ever be embarrassed, and do not ever look at yourself from a situation of I'm not good enough because you have to take a second job on your climb to success. I've had coaches that work for me that tell me their stories that one coach in particular, he bartended 4 nights a week, get off at 2 or 3 and drive to the weight room to start setting up for 4 o'clock for a 6 o'clock group. These are the sacrifices that you have to make if you say you want to be in the field of organized team sport strength and conditioning at the college or even the pro level. This is the climb. You cannot take an escalator to be successful. You have to take the stairs, and you have to be willing to know that those stairs may go up a few steps and down one and climb. It's not going to be a linear path to success. As the strength and conditioning programming became more and more important, obviously we see the financial windfalls that we see today. But the biggest questions are those coaches now who are being financially rewarded, are they mentoring and teaching the individuals that they have on their staff like we used to do back when the money wasn't the same? And sometimes I think, based off of what I'm seeing now, it's not necessarily the case. So we have to challenge the mentorees or the directors or the head guys and women. Are you giving back as much as the people gave back to you? These people right here, I didn't work for any of them, but I know how much they gave to us to get to where I got. And then I was trying to put whatever I could into my staff so they can get better than what I was able to get. I was very fortunate that I was one of the first coaches to get a 3-year contract because I had studied the game early in 2000s. And now some of the salaries when I left college, where that was the top 6 to 8 to 10 salary range, that now, if you're not making that much in Power 4, you need to go in and renegotiate. The money that's out there available now isn't just for the players. You're doing all the work too. I want the players to get paid, and I want them to get paid as much as they can, but I also want the strength coaches to get paid. You have to know your numbers. You have to know your conference's numbers. You have to be aware of what is out there and what is able for you to get. And sometimes that means you may have to look for another job to press the job you have, or if the opportunity is better, is your family prepared to move? And that's where your significant other, your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, etc., has to understand the game of coaching. This isn't a one-stop shop. Very few people get huge multiple decade runs. The ones who do are in a very fortunate place and probably worked for some terrific coaches that weren't looking to leave. But if this day and age, if you don't win, you're probably looking at a 3 to 4 year turnover in Power 4 football now. And basketball's getting the same, and men's and the women's side. So you have to be careful what you ask for when you chase the money. Rather than chase the money, chase the job and the money will come to you. I always said that. When I was so-called chasing, it was very hard to land a job. When I started chasing and started committing back to the athlete and the program I was at, a lot of things opened up my windows. And that's some of the things that I want to portray to the younger strength coach coming up is, do not chase the money, chase the opportunity, put every effort you can get into it, because that's what's going to be able to be a recognizable trait for you to get the recommendations you want and the opportunities that can afford you down the line. I also recommend in this climb for success early on in your careers, I would really much think about being a multi-sport strength coach, working with as many sports as you can. It will give you a diverse knowledge base of movement and strength patterns for different types of athletes, whether it be male, female, and the different sports, so that when you do start to move into that sport specific role, you have a very big toolbox. It's very similar to how many times do you hear coaches say, man, I want athletes who play multiple sports in high school. I'm the same way. I'm looking for strength coaches who have coached multiple sports sometime in their career, because I know the value of that. I know the sacrifices it is, especially if you came up in specific timelines of strength conditioning where there was only 2 strength coaches for 17 sports. I mean, I look back now in my time at Boise State, and I know they have 5 strength coaches full time now just for football. And I believe they've got 4 to 6 others for the rest of the sports there. When I was first started, I was the GA and the head strength coach, Coach Thompson. That was it. It was us 2. And then when he left and I took over, I just had a GA. So we had to oversee the entire sports. That taught you how to be a coach. That taught you how to fight the good fight. But we've got to understand, we have to value the role And we've got to establish ourselves in a more manner of where we give back, and we've got to protect ourselves as a profession, because a lot of times now, as science and all these other entities of expertism come into play, it's taking a greater role over what the value of a strength and conditioning coach is. So you have to be aware of that on the come up. So be very, very aware that when you're chasing this dream and you're chasing this goal of being a high level strength and conditioning coach, whether it be at the college level or the pro level, regardless of the sport, be conscientious of the history of the coaches that came before you and the groundwork that they laid for putting us all in this position to have full-time staffs now or 10 pluses at universities, and the opportunities at the division 2 and 3 levels that didn't exist, and now at the high school levels that didn't exist when I first started, or the private sector that didn't exist when I first started, or the tactical setting that didn't exist. There's a lot of different avenues for us as strength conditioning coaches to be successful. It's not just necessarily wearing some cool logo and running out into a stadium or a coliseum or a court to represent your team, because in the end it's all about, did you do your job right, and did you take care of the athletes? Because if you take care of the athletes will definitely take care of you in return, by the way they prepared, by the way they compete, and more importantly, how much they win. And that's what it's all about. It's about winning and being successful on and off the courts and helping them prepare for a better future. So remember, if you got to take a second job to climb the ladder of success, it's not a big deal. There's a lot more stories like that than there are ones with just people getting handed third base. Hey, that's Joe Big House Kenn, and that's my story of, yes, I worked at Costco, and how you can travel to be successful. Like and subscribe, ring a bell, and we will see you next week. Words win.